I've often wondered why post-apocalyptic novels veer between mayhem and anarchy rather than get into the stories of what it's like for people just getting on with this new life they've now got to deal with. And I suspect a lot of it could be because it could end up becoming quite a boring book. I'm rereading my library and trying to decide which books I'm going to keep and which books I'm going to let go. And now today's book is World Made by Hand by James Howard Kunstler. This book was introduced to me by one of my producer bosses, Joseph, when we were working on a TV commercial together. Sitting on a beautiful location by the edge of a riverbank, waiting for the film crew to set up so that we could film this beer commercial, Joseph and I were discussing solving the world's problems, and our conversation ranged between sustainability and dystopian futures, as you do. And he recommended this book, so I went and got it. And yeah, not sure about it. In this novel, it is life after the machine age has ended. The world has been struck down by a complete lack of fuel, multiple economic crises, the Mexican flu spreading all over the world, and nuclear blasts having hit major cities. Society seems to have converged into four stereotypes: the self-sufficient community, the religious sect, the lord of the manor with his serfdom, and the trailer trash who end up becoming the bullies and the leaders of the violence in this piece. Robert Earl was formerly a software executive and he's now a self-styled carpenter, and he narrates the story over the course of a summer where all these four disparate groups come together. I first discovered James Howard Kunstler in the early 2000s with his book The Long Emergency, which talked about peak oil and the ensuing disaster that would follow. So I was intrigued by the fact that he had written a fictionalized version of a post-apocalyptic novel. He has written this to represent the way society could end up going after the breakdown of normal societal norms. And I did some research on this book because I couldn't quite make head nor tail of what the hell was going on, and then I realized that this was intentional. Unfortunately, he did lean into every stereotype and he only engaged on a surface level of exploration. Emotions were an afterthought, and it was very much by the numbers. As an author, he is more comfortable discussing in fine detail the breakdown and the crumbling of the concrete roads in the physical world, rather than the societal effect this has on people and their relationships to each other, themselves, and this world that they are now just trying to make sense of. I do love a post-apocalyptic novel, movie, TV series. That's kind of one of my go-to favourites, but this one didn't really live up to my expectations. It was a very slow start that just kept on being slow as Robert discovered more about these groups and the impact they were having on this little rural idyll that these people have been living in all this time. It didn't really hold me much until the last quarter, where it veered into this crazy, violent world and didn't make sense. And I did wonder about myself at this. Am I so used to these post-apocalyptic whatevers being about anarchy and violence? Do we as audiences now thrive on this conflict and only a teeny bit of resolution? And after years of complaining, why can't we just make a nice peaceful story, a bit kumbaya, where everyone is just getting on with things? And now I kind of suspect that it could be quite boring in the wrong hands. And yes, I found this book to be boring and in the wrong hands. I found it frustrating that everyone was just being so true to their stereotypes, and there was no independent thinking. Women's rights seem to have completely regressed about this story about men and men only, whereas the women just cooked and cleaned and just provided companionship to these guys going about doing their stereotypical tropes of the world, along with let's pretend we're now living in the 19th century and we've just forgotten everything we've learned in the last 100 to 200 years. There didn't seem to be a lot of initiative that I feel you would need to have in this kind of society, and that kind of pissed me off. And I also wonder, why on earth did I keep this? And even worse, why did I go and buy the sequel to this book? I'm pretty sure I had the same reaction then. I must have had something there that made me go and buy the second book. And I'm now very confused about this. So I'm going to read the second book and I'll tell you, hopefully in that review, what on earth I was thinking as to why I kept this book, when I'm very, very carefully and consciously curated what I'm keeping and what I'm getting rid of, even 4 years ago. So watch this space for that review coming up in a few weeks' time. Now, is this a stay or a let go? I think we can guess it's gonna be a let go. I don't want to ever read this ever again, but you know what? It might find its way to someone who enjoys it. God knows who they're going to be, but it's not me. So it's a let go, and it can find its way wherever it needs to go to its next life. And I will see you next time.